Hello everyone, I told you I would do tutorials, so first up we got our redstone tutorial. Now let's get right into this. I'm trying to make this as simple as possible for you guys, because this redstone tutorial is meant for beginners. Also, I tried my best to do easiest to hardest, but these are in the order that these go. It's not lever is easiest, and then the next easiest is lightning rod. I just placed them down randomly. But first, we're going to check out what can power redstone dust. Obviously, there's a lot of things, but I'm going to explain how and why it powers it. Kind of. Lever just powers it. I'm not really sure why. Now, a lightning rod powers the redstone. Well, lever powers it when you flip the lever. You can see that it definitely powers it because you hear the piston go. Next, we have the lightning rod. If I stand on this and prove it to you guys, if this block is over here after I do this, then it's proof. And as you can see, the grass block is now over there. Proof that that worked. Then obviously the button. Now with a lever, it stays on until you unflip the lever. With a button, it only stays on for a few ticks. Now we have the two pressure plates. Now you may be wondering what's the difference with these. Well, if I grab any random item, let's say andesite, if I chuck it onto this pressure plate, it activates. But if I chuck it onto this one, it doesn't. Stone pressure plates can only be activated by a player or mob. Live a free life, cow. Next up, we have the trapped chest. When you open one of these, it will... oh my gosh. It will activate the piston. As you can see down there, the piston is now activated. Now, for the next few things, I actually need to grab this stuff. For the next one, we have an observer. An observer changes when there's a different anything in front of it. So whether it's a different block, which includes air, even if you pushed the observer with a piston and it saw a new air block, it would set off a redstone signal. Now to see where the observer is observing, it will have a little face there, and then where the observer emits the redstone signal, it will have the... It will have this little redstone dot here. Now there is another way to power this. So if I place a piece of string, obviously it activates. But now if any mob goes over the piece of string or leaves it, it will activate. Next we have a activator rail, I believe it's called. No, a detector rail. It detects whether or not there is a minecart above it. So when there is, it sets the piston off, but when there isn't, the piston turns off. Next, we have the new one and only, I forget what it's called, skulk sensor. Now this goes off whenever it hears the sound. You can control this by covering it in wool. Now if I make a sound here, the piston pushes. But if I make a sound over here, ba-dee-da-dee-da, I'm completely safe. But again, make a sound there, I'm not safe. Well, it depends what the skulk sensor is activating. Next, we have the classic, oh my gosh, what have I done? We have the classic tripwire. If you walk over this, it activates the piston. Next, we have a target block. If you shoot at it, it will activate. Then we have the redstone torch and the redstone block. These do not... Okay, with the redstone torch and the redstone block, they just power infinitely. But you can use something like a sticky piston to push the redstone block into the thing. And then there are ways to turn off a redstone torch. Okay, next up, we have rails. Now there are 4 types of rail. I do not know how the activator rail works, so I'm sorry about that. But so for the first type of rail, as you can see, it's just a normal rail. If you place a minecart on it, if you get in a minecart on it, you won't move, but you can press the forward key to move. And yes, you can use some of this stuff for Bedrock, but most of it's just Java. But yeah, to do that, you have to have forward key. And it's the only rail that can actually turn in a circle, like this. Or just turn it all. See if I do this. But if I try and do the same thing with a powered rail, doesn't work. Try to do the same thing with a detector rail. As you can see, it doesn't work. Now to decrease lag, I'm going to break all of these. Okay. And then with a redstone torch, you can power the powered rails, but as you can see, it doesn't turn. So to fix this, there's actually a way you can trick it into making you turn. So now if I grab a rail here, if I go forward, might work better if you place a block here. And now, if I go forward, it goes off. Now, as you can see, when I go over this... when the minecart goes over this, these turn on. When a minecart... As I said before, when a minecart goes over this, it emits a redstone signal. So instead of taking up space with a redstone torch, you can just use one of these in front of 3 of these. Also, you can emit it. Also, another thing is, sticky pistons can actually pull rails. So you can use it to create a cool thing like this, where this activates the sticky piston to push the rail in perfectly. But as you can see, now that... Oh, right. Now that it's going the other way, it just fails. Right. That's all with the rails. Next up we have, how do pistons work? Well, this is just a sticky piston, but this includes all pistons. They can only push up to 12 blocks. As you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 blocks. If you want proof that they can't push more than that, wait, this has to go here. Wait, I'm just adding one more to prove it to you guys. See, it can no longer push. If you think it's just on that side, it's not. If you think it's just on that block, well, if that doesn't prove it to you, then I don't know what to tell you guys. But a very cool thing can be done with pistons and observers, and slime and honey blocks. Now, in my opinion, this is one of the coolest features to do with these. It's fairly simple. It's just basic redstone mechanics. But so, if you take an observer, just put it in the air, have the face facing whichever way, have the red dot facing whichever way you want it to go. Then on the red dot, place a piston. Then in front of that piston, you can place either 2 slime blocks, or you can place honey. Next, you just have to copy it on the other side. Now, supposedly, it should actually work this way too. Now I'm just going to put honey blocks there, and then if we take a block here, and it now goes off. The reason this works is this observer sees a new block, a new piece of air, so it activates this piston to grab this. And then this piston pushes it away. Although stuff like obsidian and furnaces can stop them. But I'm just going to let that one keep going. Alright, I'm just going to do this so I can build them easier. You can also build it. It doesn't matter which way it doesn't matter which side the observer is on, really, just as long as they're basically opposite. Now you can also do this with just slime blocks, also, or with just honey blocks. Also, that one was 2 blocks high, this one's 2 blocks wide. And yes, it still does work. Okay, but yeah, that's basically how pistons work. Now we can get rid of all of this. Next we have redstone clocks. These are a fairly useful thing to set off a clock on when you want something to go off. The most simple is probably the repeater clock. Basically, you have 4 repeaters and 4 redstone in this pattern. Now you can actually make it longer, and you can change the shape. It can even just be done with 2 repeaters and 4 redstone, if it's done like this. Although that goes really fast, so you'd have to set the ticks back quite a bit. And now they back and forth do 1, 2, 1, 2, basically. Something like that. And then if you do the same thing here, it's just faster. You can make this one faster, but I'm not sure exactly how fast. Okay, quite fast. Okay. But that's how these two work. Honestly, they might be the same speed, except this one's more satisfying. Actually, yeah. The reason these two are the same speed is because each of these is set to 2 ticks, which makes 4 ticks, and then each of these is set to 1 tick, which makes also 4 ticks. And then supposedly if we did those two, and then if we did this, wait. They should be the same speed, but I'm not 100% sure if they are. Okay. Next is a also fairly simple clock. Basically, you just have, this is also the fastest clock, but you have 2 observers facing into each other, and they very quickly emit a redstone signal. And then you can activate and deactivate this with something like a piston. Specifically sticky. But then if you do that, it activates. Wait. See how fast it goes? And then that. I'm gonna turn that off because that's just annoying. What version am I in? Okay. Next, this is probably the hardest of the clocks, and I wouldn't actually recommend building it, but it is a very cool clock, and I am still going to show it to you. Okay. So you have to grab this, and then alright. So then this happens, and then if you place a block here, it's all set into motion. Alright. I'm using a diamond block just because I'm in creative and can do whatever I want. Okay. The reason this works is when a block is above a redstone torch, it sets off a redstone signal. But when the block is gone, when the block is gone, the redstone signal is gone. So by manipulating this feature, you can have a block here, and then the block is powered by redstone. So that powers this redstone dust into this piston, which pushes the block over to this redstone torch, which does the same thing to this piston. And then this just goes around and around in a circle. And then to make it power something, you would have it connect off to something like that. And then you place the block. And then as you can see, every once in a while the piston goes. If you want a fast clock, I very much recommend the Observer. And then I mostly recommend these because these are completely interchangeable for how fast you want your clock speed. Also, they're fairly small and easy to fit into places. I mean, this is obviously the smallest, but if you want to adjust, but these are definitely probably one of the cheapest clocks. These two are the best, basically. Next up is something I forgot to set up, but it's something I have to do anyway. If I grab a lever. Okay. So, redstone, it sadly doesn't run on infinitely. It can only go on for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 blocks. If you don't believe me, look at this. See, still powering. You can see by the particles they emit, when cut off, redstone dust doesn't emit particles. Also, good job to Mojang. It's very well shaded how it goes, because if I looked at this and then this, basically no difference. Same with these two, and then same with these two, same with these two, same with these two. They basically each look the same. It's amazing. Actually, almost crazy. But when you look at the end one compared to the first one, you can very much tell the difference. You can also create almost a fairly cool fire effect. Now you have fire. Okay. But there is a way to extend how long this can go by another entire 15 blocks. And this is called a repeater. Now these actually have to be placed right here. You know they're being powered when they have the redstone glow to them. As you can see, the repeaters are just as bright as the original thing. So then if you place redstone here, it's basically went from 1 power to 100% power again. Now this does go only for another 15 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. As you can see again, not emitting particles, so it is now turned off. Okay guys, well that was the end of the video, so bye!